Step 42. Remove the stock negative battery cable from the ground lug on top of the transmission directly behind the starter motor and replace it with the Baggerworks negative battery cable. Step 43. Replace the negative battery cable ground lead located on the frame cross member above the battery box position with the ground lead on the new battery cable. Step 44. Loosen the stock positive battery cable on the starter motor and reposition it so that it is facing the 5 o'clock position, then retighten it. Step 45, along with any other steps regarding wiring harnesses, are the most critical in the fitment of the drop seat kit. In step 45, you're going to route the TSSM wire harness under and behind the main wire harness, the battery cable, etc., to the top left of the frame. Make sure that the TSSM is positioned above and behind the new negative battery cable. Step 46. Separate the Baggerworks drop seat frame rails from the battery box cross member by removing the 2 bolts holding the battery box crossover rail to the frame rails. Step 47. Install the new battery box. Make sure you put the mounting tabs on top of the frame tabs when you install the battery box. Use red Loctite. The battery cables should be located on the front right side of the battery box. In preparation for step 48, remove the 2 spark plug wires where they are clipped to the frame cross member and reverse their positions. The rear cylinder spark plug wire should be routed through the left-hand 1-inch hole in the cross member. The front cylinder spark plug wire should be routed through the right-hand 1-inch hole in the frame cross member, then re-clipped to the frame cross member. Step 48. Install the coil. Turn the coil upside down so that the signal wire plug on the top. Put red Loctite on the coil bolts. Put the battery strap between the coil and the battery box under the left coil bolt. Connect the rear cylinder plug wire to the coil left side. Connect the front cylinder plug wire to the coil right side. Plug the signal wire in, tighten the battery box and the coil bolts, making sure that you're not pinching any wires or wire harnesses. Step 49. Make sure that all the wire harnesses and the wires are as they're shown both in the instruction manual and in the video. All your harnesses, the battery cable should be at the front of the battery box on the right side. Step 50. Install the ECM by removing the 4 standoff nuts on the right side of the new battery box. Connect the ECM wire harness to the ECM. Place the ECM on the exposed studs, then replace the nuts and tighten, being careful not to over-tighten. Step 51. Install the ABS brake module. Use the same 3 rubber grommets and bolts that originally fastened the ABS module to the stock battery box. Under no circumstances should you loosen the bolts holding the brake lines to the ABS module. Any adjustments can be made by very carefully bending the brake lines into the new position. Be very careful. Step 52. Install the TSSM module in the box provided at the front of the battery box. Also, if you have California emissions equipment, now is the time to plug in your purge solenoid and tuck it back up underneath the plastic wiring guard at the center of the bike frame. Step 53. Install the new fuse box, fuse block, and 40 amp maxi fuse holder onto the battery box as follows. Number 1, remove the brace from the back of the new fuse box. 2 3/16 inch bolts. Place the 40 amp maxi fuse holder in the fuse box. Push it until it clicks into place. Then install the fuse block into the fuse box from the rear of the fuse box. Replace the brace and tighten. Remove the 2 nylock nuts from the outside left-hand side of the battery box. Place the fuse box on the battery box studs and replace the 2 nylock nuts. Tighten them down to hold it in place. Make sure you haven't kinked any wires, wire harnesses. Step 54. Install the stock fuse box cover over the new fuse box. Step 55. Reinstall the battery into the new battery box. This is where you'll see if you've installed or routed all the battery cables, the wire harnesses, and the wiring correctly. If you haven't, you're going to have a hard time getting the battery to fit without pinching or prying all the wiring. So using the supplied stock nylon strap, carefully lower the battery into place and reconnect the battery cables. Step 56. Set the right and left bagger works frame sections in place. Using red Loctite on all 8 bolts, hand tighten the bolts, 4 on each side, and then check for fitment, pinched wires, etc. Step 57. Once you've made sure that no wires, wire harnesses, plugs, or connectors are pinched or bound up, then you can tighten the pieces together for the new Bagger Works frame assembly. Do so in the order shown in the instruction manual and tighten them to the foot-pounds of torque shown in the instruction manual. Step 58. Install the 2 rubber grommets into the right and left frame section. Step 59. Fasten the top of the rear shock absorbers to the new Bagger Works frame rails using a torque wrench and red Loctite on the bolts. Refer to the Harley service manual for the proper torque to tighten the bolts, the 3/4 inch socket. Step 60. Install the rear fender. The front edge of the fender must be installed over the top of the battery box. Attach the fender to the frame rails with the 4 stock bolts, T40 Torx. Step 61. Install the top bolts for the right and left saddlebag support rails with the air shock fill valve on the left side. Use red Loctite and hand tighten only at this time. Connect the 2 air tubes to the shock absorbers by pushing in on the red locks, inserting the hose, and pulling out on the red. Step 62. Using red Loctite, fit the rest of the mounting bolts and nuts into place on the saddlebag support rails and then tighten to Harley specs. Step 63 and Step 64. If you had saddlebag guards on your bike previously, they will not fit with the new drop seat kit frame rails. The 3 options you have at this point are to temporarily use the plastic end caps that we've provided in the end of your saddlebag support rails, and then either use saddlebag support rail extensions that will go from the end of your support rail, the tab on the down tube, or Baggerworks also supplies or has available as an accessory saddlebag guards that will fit with the drop seat kit. Step 65. Connect the rear fender wire harness, then connect the antenna wire to the antenna bracket. Zip tie the fender wiring and the antenna wire under the frame rail and behind the bag support rail for a clean install. Step 66. Place the chrome strut covers over the right and left frame rails. Step 67. If you have a quick disconnect bracket for your luggage rack and your backrest, place it over the chrome strut cover and fasten it to the rails. Step 68. Install the right and left front saddlebag support brackets, hand tight only. Step 69. Zip tie the 2 O2 sensor connectors and the rear wheel speed sensor, if you have ABS, to the right side frame down tube behind battery box. Step 70. Install the custom Baggerworks drop seat 2-up or solo seat to the bike with the stock button head bolt. Step 71. Replace the 40 amp maxi fuse in the fuse box and then install the custom Baggerworks side panels by inserting the 3 pins per panel into the rubber grommets located in the frame. Step 72. Install the saddlebags with the 2 stock D-rings per bag. Step 73. Tighten the front saddlebag brackets with a 7/16 wrench. This concludes the drop seat kit 3rd generation installation video. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, and I hope this video was of help to you installing. As you can see in this brief demonstration, I'm able to move and maneuver the bike rather easily with my feet firmly planted on the ground, heels and toes, whereas before the drop seat kit was installed, I was maneuvering on the balls of my feet while the bike was in an upright position. It's much more comfortable with the drop seat kit and much safer.